Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we bring you a heavyweight match in which the winner goes on to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world. And now, let me introduce you to the principals. Fighting out of the great state of Minnesota, hailing from Eagan, Minnesota, in the purple trunks, weighing in at 32 ounces, liquid, super tough task cleanser degreaser, clean, super clean. In the blue corner, fighting out of the great state of North Carolina, hailing from Indian Trail, North Carolina, wearing the blue and orange trunks and weighing in at 15-ounce spray, the original engine degreaser, Gunk. Here's a good look at the starter shim, should you ever need them. If you're having any kind of problem with, the gear armature on the starter and the depth of how far it's going into the flex plate, you use a starter shim. Now, this starter shim right here, you can see this U. So you get the exhaust off, especially if you got headers. You're gonna have to take the header off. So take the header off, and then unloosen the starter. You're going to have to take the outboard bolt completely out, but you can leave the inboard, just leave it loose on there so the starter hangs there, because they get heavy. But anyway, what you do is you put the U-shaped part around the bolt, and once you see that it's on there, because you can see the sides of it around the bolt, once it's on there, then you can put this one through the hole. This one has to go through the hole, and then tighten it up. And then you're good to go. You've got a shim in there. And this vehicle has two shims in it. Why it has two shims in it, I can't remember why. But it possibly might be that they were there when I took it apart long ago. So what I did is I just used them. I've never had any starter issues, ring gear issues, anything like that. Nothing. And this tab right here, you can bend this tab like I'm lying on my back, and you may be too. And so I bend this down towards the ground, and I can control it a lot better, trying to find that slot for the U-shape. So if you're having any problems at all, and especially if you find that there are shims in there, just don't discard them. Make sure you put them back. They're probably there for a reason. That was my reasoning. And I put them back, and like I said, I haven't had any problem. Okay, we're back at our test bench, and we've got our power coming in from the battery to charge our fuse panel. We've got our relay over here. This right here is our ignition switch, and we are going to be able to keep the toggle and have it lit when it's on. We are going to be able to do that. This right here is our momentary push button switch to start the vehicle. You know, the whole thing was acting like a starter switch anyway, so we're going to go with that, and we're going to put a starter switch in it. Well, that's how I wanted to act anyway. This right here is our neutral safety switch, and it's on. The switch is on, and the reason for that is because in your vehicle the neutral safety switch is on when it's in park, not electrically but mechanically. The little bumps on the plate push that extension turn that micro switch on. So it's on, although there's no electricity being fed to it, but it is on. So in our test example here on the test panel, we've turned this on. So what should happen now is we should be able to turn the ignition switch on without the starter motor cranking. See if we can do that. The switch is on, but the starter motor is not cranking. That means that the 86 terminal on the relay has not yet been powered. Okay, so now we'll leave that on. We don't have anything cranking. The reason why we know nothing's cranking on the test panel is because this is not lit. This is the S terminal on the solenoid. It would be lit if it was receiving power and telling the starter motor to crank. So here's our momentary switch. It's going to be a push button momentary switch to start the motor. The neutral safety switch is on. It's in park. All right, so now here's our switch. In this example, we're just going to turn it on and leave it. But in the car, it would be going, you'd push it, it would be going, nah, 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 and then you'd let the button back off, which would turn this switch off. Now, what that's going to do is when the momentary switch is pushed on, it's going to tell the S terminal to start. It's telling the S terminal to start. Okay, so the neutral safety switch is on because of the position of the gear shift lever. The momentary switch is on, so the S terminal is cranking the motor. Now we take the we let go of the push button switch. Well, not cranking anymore. No reason for it to crank because things already started. This is still on at night. That's going to be very helpful. I always wanted that anyway, even though I've gone into the car and put in another indicator or something. I'm going to rip that out and put this in. I always wanted to use this in the first place. And that's our circuit. And I think we've got it because if it works on the test bench, it's going to work in the car. It was just a matter of getting everything finalized. But the difference between all the other experiments we did and this one is we have control over this one right here. We know exactly what's going on and we know when. What could be better? If it works here on the test panel, it's got to work in the car, theoretically. You know, there's always that outside possibility, but we're a lot farther here than we ever were. Okay, you've all seen this symbol. It's a current is open. When this lever touches here, the circuit is flowing through. So no matter what that is, you can have power running to that from the battery full time. And because it's open, it's not doing anything. No draw, nothing. That has to be closed for the current, whatever's coming into it, can go back out of it. So now for a little overview. I found a note that said, let the 87 wire do the work. And the only thing that I could see that was doing any work in this series was the S terminal on the solenoid. So 87, let that do the work. Straight from the relay, straight to wherever your work is. Powering switches is not work, you know, but the 87 has to go to whatever is going to be powering whatever you're, because you could be putting a fuel pump in, you know, some kind of amplifier for your stereo, dual electric fans, who knows. So that takes care of 87. Now here's the 30. It's 30 wire and it's fused with this fuse right here, and it's powered into the relay all the time. but the relay is open inside, so the connection is not being made. So it can sit there for a long time. I don't believe it's drawing anything. I mean, milliamps maybe. And we have to do our parasitic battery draw test on this unit yet. But that's after we get everything, you do that after you get everything connected. So we got our ground wire here, 85. And another thing is check on your relays, because this is a new batch of relays, and the 30 isn't where it usually is. We actually had this wired wrong on the test panel here. We corrected it, and we marked with Sharpies on the side which terminal went where in the plug. So I don't want to get caught up on the colors of the wires, because inevitably you're going to get a pigtail with different colored wires. But the numbers aren't going to change. So this is the 85. It's the ground. We grounded it right to here. And then we have the 86 wire. So we've accounted for the 30. We've accounted for the 85. 30 goes to the battery fused. 85 ground. 87 to the work. That leaves 86. Now 86 powers the relay. But as the relay sits right here, even though there's power coming from the battery, it's open inside the relay. Nothing is happening. So there's not going to be any draw. Now, we took this switch right here, and that's our momentary push button switch to start the vehicle. So then and only then does the 86 wire wake the relay up. And what happens is that 30 touches the 87, and well, that button is depressed, and when the button is let go, it goes off. So another thing is, when you take that wire from the original factory harness off the S terminal, you're not going to use that wire anymore, because you're going to be running a new wire from the neutral safety switch to the S terminal. Oh, I'm sorry, not from the neutral safety switch, from the 87 on the relay, which is the blue wire. So you're going to be running a new wire, and it has to be the same diameter of the wire that you are not going to use anymore from the factory harness. They got to be the same size. So the reason, we're pretty confident this is going to work. So it's the best test we've had yet, and it's doing exactly what we want it to do. Now, in retrospect, you do not have to do all of this if you just want to connect those micro switches on your shifter, your B&M shifter. The only thing you have to do is go to where your neutral safety switch is on the steering column. It's usually white and it's semicircular. The backup lights, the backup wires go to that switch and the neutral safety switch. Take them wires from the neutral safety switch, put them on your micro switch, which would be the switch on the bottom for the neutral safety switch on your B&M shifter. Do the same for the backup lights, which would be the upper switch. Just run those wires, extend those wires there. You're done. You don't have to do any of this of what we're doing with a relay and all these other switches. And we just wanted to do that, so we did. Why? Basically, because it was there. And you knew us. If there's something that has to be experimented on over here at the Fort Flat Garage, we just jump in with both feet. We absolutely love to experiment, because when we do, we learn so much more than what we knew prior. That's the rationale for experimenting.